I'm thrilled. I wasn't thrilled about Mohamed Salah's tweet after the match yesterday.
So emo,
just getting you prepared for Saudi.
Do you think he's just trying to, put a little pressure?
It's going to happen at some point, though. It's ready to mentally prepare
Give me
yourself.
that contract.
Remember that
Give
a couple weeks ago?
He
was doing a post game with Sky Sports on the desk on the after the match. He kind of did the same thing.
I will never forget what scoring at Anfield feels like. All right, Mo, come on now.
It's the no matter what happens.
I know.
What an incredible evolution.
He's setting you up.
Arsenal lose to Newcastle at St. James's Park 1-0. Liverpool come back to win 2-1 against Brighton for the second time in a week. And Manchester City stumble against Bournemouth. They lose 2-1. Nottingham Forest continue to roll 3-0 over West Ham. And look at Tottenham, 4-1 over Aston Villa. It was a 1-1 draw between Manchester United and Chelsea. All right, guys, let's dive into the weekend in the Premier League. Liverpool sitting on top of the standings right now. I feel like we're having this conversation very frequently about the start to the season that Arne Slot has this Liverpool team under right now. It's incredible. Has the best record of a new manager to start in club history. Are we convinced now? Are we convinced that, because we kept talking about tests, Matteo, like, let's see how they do against, a Brighton, and they beat them twice. How are we feeling now about Liverpool?
I mean, they should feel a little bit lucky, right? Because in the first half, Brighton could have gone up by more than just one goal. I mean, the Kadioglu strike was brilliant, but then all those other chances, too. It could have been way worse for Liverpool at the half, but then they completely turned it around. And I didn't even realize this until it came up, that Salah's now 11 goals behind Thierry Henry. I mean, he just surpassed someone that's nicknamed God. Right, so this is a generational, legendary talent. The evolution he's had, the kind of goal that he scored as well, that little cut in, typical Salah on his left foot. An incredible reaction from Liverpool in the second half.
Cody Gakpo has been sensational for them as well, and it's just, I think the thing that I appreciated about this performance is that, and Charlie, you said it in the production meeting, they were terrible in the first half. And this is the second time in a row that we've seen them come out and look really poor and look a little lost in the first 45. But then finding a way to make some adjustments in the second half. And Arne Slot spoke about it after the match in his post-game press conference. And he was like, I went into the locker room at half and I didn't yell at the guys. But I just made it very clear that wasn't good enough. That's not going to be good enough. And if you allow this if this continues to happen, eventually this is going to bite us. And so the ability to come back and put together a solid performance in the second 45, find 2 goals to get the come from behind win, to me, that shows a lot of character, but also a manager who knows exactly what he's seeing and what to do to fix it.
Yeah. You have to give a lot of credit to Arne Slot and what he's been able to do so far. But again, it's so far. We're in November. There's a lot of the season left.
Yep.
So there's going to be plenty of more tests. There's going to be plenty of more matches where they don't start off well in the first half. And if you do that against maybe a Manchester City and you give those type of opportunities, you're not going to be down 1-0. You're going to be down 3 or 4-0. So, but given this result, and against a Brighton side that is, I think, very strong. They've played really well under Hertzler. They're aggressive, but they're lacking some pieces. But essentially, I give so much credit to the way that Arne Slot has been able to get Mohamed Salah bought in, to get Virgil van Dijk to say, actually, I would be open to staying here because I can see the project and I can see that there's a lot of hope for Liverpool moving forward after Jurgen Klopp. And it's not easy to come in when Jurgen Klopp was the biggest personality in the Premier League and all the fans adored him. To come in and have this team playing in the way that they are, I'm actually really impressed.
How rare is it that an entire team basically stays together when a manager of the size and ilk
no real big
of
signings in the offseason. It's essentially the exact same team.
He's not doing anything. No offense.
He's breaking down. He can't handle the pace and power of the Premier League. How happy are Premier League fans that this stereotype finally comes to life, right? The guy can't handle it. He's like, no, I'm sorry. I came from Italy where we walk. Now we got to run, and it's a little bit different. I hate saying it.
The only thing I'll say is, you can't really judge Arne Slot until the season's over, right? And what I will say is, we've seen this from a lot of managers, it's consistency. And can he stay consistent? Can Liverpool stay consistent from now until May?
In particular, the winter break is brutal, especially for the managers.
Historically,
England plays
that
right
has
through
not
it.
been a kind time to Liverpool. So yeah, and we've talked about it. They've got a gauntlet coming up. They've got Leverkusen midweek in Champions League. So yeah, there's going to be plenty of tests. But once again, I feel like every week they keep kind of proving that they're legit.
Is there one player that you feel Arne Slot has gotten more out of than Jurgen Klopp?
Ryan Gravenberch is the obvious one who has been. I mean, that sixth position was just a glaring weakness for Liverpool for so long. And Gravenberch, who was there all last season and severely underutilized under Klopp, all of a sudden has stepped in and has looked like one of the most important players on the team. I think Ibrahima Konate has been one of their best players by far. Cody Gakpo has been unbelievable. But I love the way that he utilized his subs yesterday and brought in Lucho Diaz off the bench to inject a little bit of energy.
Yeah,
so
he went for it.
Just feel like there's.
He hasn't really been going for it in the.
I feel like he has a really good sense of who his players are and where they are best positioned. And so for me, that's success. So I'm thrilled. I wasn't thrilled about Mohamed Salah's tweet after the match yesterday.
So emo,
just getting you prepared for Saudi.
Do you think he's just trying to, put a little pressure?
It's going to happen at some point, though.
Remember,
it's ready to mentally prepare
Give me
himself.
that contract.
Remember that
Give
a couple
me that
weeks
contract.
ago? He was doing a post-game with Sky Sports on the desk on the after the match. He kind of did the same thing.
I will never forget what scoring at Anfield feels like. All right, Mo, come on now.
It's the no matter what happens.
I know.
No matter
What an incredible evolution.
He's setting you up.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we haven't talked about Arsenal and their 1-0 loss to Newcastle. I know. We have to do it,
So Mo
boys.
Salah's leaving, huh? Crazy. We should talk about that.
But let's bring in some reinforcements to have this conversation, shall we? We've got Geoff Shreeves standing by. Hello, Geoff. All right, let's talk about Arsenal because I've already kind of gloated about Liverpool being on top of the table. But for Arsenal, they are now 7 points off the top. Is the narrative starting to change about this team and their actual chances of contending for a title?
Well, first of all, Sus, thank you so much for allowing me to join your Liverpool loving. And it's also very decent of you to mention another team as well in the Premier League. I mean, you look like the cat that got the cream right now. And let's be honest, who can blame you? Liverpool are firing on all cylinders. I will come back to Arsenal. But I'll just throw in another name that you and the guys will talk about, though, the players that have changed. Nunez, the way his game is played under Arne Slot, the way it's changed, he's doing a lot more, if you like, tracking back, a lot more harrying. He's putting the team before trying to score goals for himself. So absolutely superb. Right now, brilliant weekend for Liverpool. But yeah, you're right. Arsenal, it's all gone a bit flat, I'm afraid, Alexis and Charlie. They just look bereft of ideas. They look bereft of strength. And the bombshell news this morning that Edu, the sporting director, is leaving the club. He has chosen to leave the club as well, and he was a strong ally of Mikel Arteta's. Right now, as I say, it's all looking a bit pessimistic for Arsenal.
Why has Arteta and Arsenal been insisted on not going for a top striker? Is this that Arteta thought he was fine with what he had? Is it Edu that thinks that maybe a signing like Merino was what they needed? What's the deal with this? Because it seems like this is a glaring weakness now in the squad, isn't it?
Matteo, this question has been happening for some time now. Do they need a striker? Well, when you look at Kai Havertz's goals and what Arsenal have achieved with him playing in that position, the answer is no. But what they don't really have is a plan B. But honestly, this is a huge deal, Edu leaving, because what we want to know is, why is he leaving? Now, if you look back at the last two transfer windows for Arsenal, they haven't really been great, have they? What have they brought in? Calafiori, a player who's had a whole host of injuries in the past. Merino, again, a middling player, scored a great goal for Spain in the summer against Germany, but hasn't exactly set the woods alight. And Raheem Sterling on a free. The last two transfer windows under Edu have been really disappointing. But the key questions are why? Why were they disappointing? Was it because he failed to nail down the deals? Or was it because he wasn't given the license or indeed the finance to get the players that they wanted? So I think we're coming to a point where we'll find out exactly what is going on at Arsenal, and perhaps even more damaging, that there are rumours that Edu will be leaving to join the Marinakis band Forest, Olympiacos, and the club in Portugal as well, whose name escapes me. I mean, if he's jumping ship to go to a club who I feel like are lower in stature in the Premier League, that is a bad look for Arsenal.
Geoff, another bad look for Arsenal seems, and I think this story pops up from time to time, especially the last few years, but it seems like patience is starting to wear thin a little bit with the Arteta plan, if you will, especially after such a tough loss. What are you hearing about this in England?
I don't think that there's. I don't think the fan base are upset. You know, you're always going to get grumblings, aren't you, after a poor performance, and it was a really poor performance, and it's not been a fantastic start to the season, if you like, for Arsenal. You know, coming on the back of it as well. Obviously, the day at Bournemouth, a bad day out for Arsenal once again. But it's just overall the start. The fact that they've got. Look, you're an Arsenal fan. You know they've got a very good starting 11, a really strong starting 11. But behind that, there's not much else. And if any of that starting 11 isn't on top of their game, there's question marks. Martinelli not firing all cylinders right now. Trossard not firing on all cylinders. I mean, it can't all be down to the loss of Martin Odegaard. Yes, he's the captain, and yes, he's a really important player. But they just look, right now, they look an absolute shadow of themselves. And they've got to go to Stamford Bridge next week. So, you know the old saying, you cannot win the Premier League before Christmas, but you can lose it. A few more defeats, and there won't be many, then they'll be out of the race.
Okay. It's been all doom and gloom, Geoff.
Okay, Charlie, give me some positives for Arsenal right now.
Says, he texted me right away. He said, "You're the jinx," because I was saying Eddie Howe could possibly be on the hot seat. So, what are the positives moving forward? If you had to find a silver lining right now for Arsenal, what are they?
Nwaneri, no question. Get him started. Get him in the starting 11, be a brave call, but when he comes on, he changes things. He's got personality, he's got ability, he's got a swagger. He brings something to the side. Have the bravery to start him right now. And also, either Trossard or Martinelli have to find some sort of game, because right now there's so much weight on Bukayo Saka to be the creative, to provide something, to provide a spark. He's just going to find himself exhausted because they are so reliant upon him as well. He's got a lot of problems in the minute, and there are no easy fixes, Charlie. Genuinely, you know, they're not out of it yet, but it doesn't look good.
Geoff, I want to transition over to Manchester City, who suffered that 2-1 loss to Bournemouth. I know that a lot was made of the injuries that they're dealing with right now, and Pep was saying, I only have 13 first-team players available. Was this result simply down to the injuries, or are perhaps maybe some cracks beginning to show there?
No, I think it's down to fatigue, if you like. Now, that can be mental fatigue as much as physical. Look, Bournemouth are excellent, absolutely excellent. It's like we saw from Brighton, although they didn't pull off a result, they took the game to Man City. They weren't cowed, if you like, by reputation or big names. You look at Manchester City's starting 11 as well. Superb starting 11. So, you know, they should be able to have swept anybody aside. And look at their bench as well. They've got a really strong squad. And this is down to the manager. He's got to rotate players, bring players out of the side he feels they are jaded, and bring in fresh minds and fresh legs as well. But it's back-to-back defeats. That side that started at Tottenham, a couple of youngsters, but in the main, it was a strong side. So they're not in a good patch right now, Manchester City. They've got some big games away in Europe this week where they face the new Manchester United manager as well. And then after that, it's Brighton away from home. Who are going to ask questions too? So that big smile on your face, Suze, next weekend, it could be even bigger if it's possible.
It is. It won't go away. I don't know. It's just there.
It's crazy. And by the way, it did say notable injuries, but Doku came in. You know, KDB was on the bench. It felt like they had enough. Kyle Walker played, Akanji played. They had enough to win this game, but they didn't have a shot until the 80th minute on target. Mm-hmm. That tells you all you need to know about City. And then it was too little, too late. Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
If I recall, though,
they're having a rough patch right now. So they and Arsenal, they look similar in many ways. They just look jaded.
Yep.
They just look like there's I don't know. You can't say too many games because this league is unforgiving, plus the other competitions as well. It's really tough on them, but, you know, they've got to pull through because nobody will wait for them.
It's tough on everyone.
Rightly.
Yeah, everyone's dealing with this.
You know you want to say tough on everyone, other than Liverpool. I wouldn't know about this, but I heard it's tough. Yeah.
Well, jaded is a good word. Geoff Shreeves, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, enjoy your week. I'm sure you will, Suze.
I sure will. I sure will. It does feel like, so Manchester City, this was their first league loss that they've suffered since almost a year ago. It was December 6th last year against Villa was their last league loss. And I seem to recall at that point in the season, we were like, oh, is City vulnerable? Is this, you know, could this be the season where an Arsenal could challenge for the title? And it feels like they kind of inevitably had this little dip, this lull, but then they always find a way.
This injury excuse for a team like City with the payroll that they have, where they have two almost world-class starting 11s. I don't want to hear it. Every team is going through this. Every team is playing in Europe when you're fighting for the same things that City are fighting for. Other teams have injury crises. I saw this game in its entirety. Bournemouth were so fast on the break. Semenyo looked like almost world-class. He was tearing them apart on the counter. The guy was unstoppable. It was like a freight train every time Bournemouth attacked. Iraola's done a terrific job, and they looked faster, they looked sharper. They were getting into the final third with so much ease. They were just running right through them. So maybe Jeff's got a good point there about tired legs, but I mean, come on. Like, every team's got injuries. Yeah. You look at the starting 11. Alexis, you said it, man.
Yeah. Tons of injuries.
This team should be doing better.
100%. I want to give a little credit to Iraola. In particular, being able to close out a match against City is incredibly difficult. When Gavardio scores that header, I'm thinking, here it comes. Yeah. Where everybody knows exactly what's going to happen. The script is old at this point, and they stood tall.
They did.
Bournemouth did not. In fact, give some credit to our guy, Tyler Adams, who on Doku absolutely stripped him of the ball, was a dog. There were moments there where I was like, man, this is the old Tyler Adams. This kid is back.
It's so good to see. So good to see. Is this officially a 3-horse title race, do we think, in the Premier League?
I think we always
Liverpool, City, and Nottingham Forest.
I feel like the conversation. I feel like the narrative was 2. Liverpool weren't there, and now they are. It's going to bring it back. That's
Fence wins championships. 7 goals conceded for us on the season. That might be the recipe.
Chris Wood, Golden Boot.
Great stuff.